Welcome back to Guns America Digest and Grid Down Magazine. If you have not subscribed to Guns America Digest, you can do so at gunsamerica.com/digest, and you will get the quarterly publication of what appears to be quarterly of Grid Down Magazine. Kind of working on it as I can. Also, I would subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're on YouTube, or Rumble if you're on Rumble. Today I'm making some homemade oxygen absorbers. Oxygen absorbers, I've explained many times, are really a fuzzy, it's kind of a fuzzy thing as to the viability of oxygen absorbers and what types of containers they work in. I've been telling people to use Mylar bags instead of buckets lately because buckets have gotten very expensive. Mylar bags are available, and according to the Mormons on the LDS website, the buckets don't work well with oxygen absorbers anyway. So I would stick to the Mylar, and now if you want to buy oxygen absorbers, you can. But I ran across this how to make your own oxygen absorbers on, I don't know, someone said it to me on TikTok or something, and I was like, wow, that makes a heck of a lot of sense, because what is oxygen will react with the chemicals in an oxygen absorber, but they'll also just react with regular old steel. And as you can see, and that's how rust is made, is steel oxidizing with oxygen. So what I'm doing is I am creating a salt solution, okay, and just seeing how much salt I can get to dissolve in hot water. So hot water is going to always dissolve more salt than cold water to begin with, just because its water is it solubilizes much better when it is when it's hot. So, but I'm going to boil this right out anyway. And I'm using 4O steel wool as my rust agent. And if you use steel wool, you know that it does rust actually pretty easy. Like if you use it to wash dishes and you leave it on the side of your sink, it's rusty the next time you use it. You can't really use it twice. So, yes, it does creep me out to cut steel wool with scissors too. But for an oxygen absorber, I don't think you're going to actually get much better than this, because the steel, it has to react with the oxygen, and it's going to react with the oxygen far before it attracts oxygen. So it's going to react with your food long before the oxygen gets to your food. In long term, especially if it's in a bucket or something like that, which, according to LDS, apparently is not that secure with oxygen. I don't know. I mean, I have some long-term storage buckets that I bucketed in, I don't know, 2012 when I kind of started this whole thing, and I've opened a couple of them just to see, and they seem like the day they were put away. So I don't know if the whole oxygen absorber thing is even required, if it adds value, I don't know. I'm not going to claim that the science is anywhere near resolved on long-term food storage, because honestly, I think the Mormons are the only people who have ever really put any effort into it. And I think that even they don't, they're not exactly forthcoming with why they do things from what I've seen on their website. And I'm not a Mormon. I'm not a Mormon. So, and I've told people that they can buy food on the Mormon website even without being a Mormon. And it works out great for a lot of people who are really looking for robust survival food in number 10 cans. And I still do recommend that. For the best calories per dollar, I'm always going to tell you to go to Walmart and buy flour. It's just, I'm a broken record, and it's a lot of people are going to be a lot better off than they would have been had they listened to all these YouTubers who have been bought off by the survival food companies My people are going to be a lot better off because nobody bought me off. I do my own thing. And your best bet is to focus on calories per dollar and store grains, as I just reiterated in a Mylar, the companion piece to this. So I don't think you have to dissolve a ton of salt in this water. I don't think you have to fully saturate it. I'd say I'm pretty fully saturated now. But what I would do is fill it right up with steel wool and let the steel wool, let it boil out so that the salt sticks to the steel wool. The original YouTube video not YouTube, I believe it was TikTok. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say it's TikTok, but I have a lot of people send me TikTok stuff. There's a lot of stuff on TikTok that is extremely useful. And yes, it's owned by the Chinese and blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't really matter to me because my whole thing is usefulness. So I'm gonna boil this out to dry and put some steel wool in that video, to finish the thought, because I really do. In that video, the people had just kind of ground salt into the steel wool pad, like just grind it in. I'm like, okay, well, that's probably not the best way to get salt to stick to your steel wool, is to grind it in with a spoon. It's just not, like, we know how this works, and in order to like when you boil things out, the steam will not carry the salt out, and the salt will be left on your pan and whatever else is in that pot. So I'm just going to boil this. I'm going to add some steel wool to this pot of boiling salty water. And I'm not going to go crazy because this is an experiment. But I'm going to just let it boil out so that the salt is all stuck to the steel wool. Okay, I'm not going to be judicious with preserving my salt. I'm just gonna. I want the salt to stick to the steel. Okay, and I'm going to boil it right out to dry. I probably overdid it, like I kind of overdo everything. This is just about boiled out now. But as you can see, the salt did adhere to the steel as it boiled out, as I expected that it would. So now you have these kind of nuggets of salty steel, and the steel is impregnated with the salt. It's not just on the surface. It's all in there. Even where you can't see a ball of salt, you still got salt on the steel. So what that's going to do, that's going to accelerate your oxidation of this before it finds the something to interact with in your food. And I am going to use these tea bags, as these empty tea bags, as my container for them. But you could use paper, you could use a coffee filter with staples. The staples are only going to, this of course cools off pretty quickly too when you take it out, so you can just stuff it. I'm going to just stuff these into my tea bags, and when they're, once you've got your oxygen absorber made, it's going to work until the steel is gone, which means that even if you have a little bit of leakage, even if the buckets do leak a little bit, as LDS seems to be implying, you're going to have a full-time oxygen absorber working. It's not going to be like a regular oxygen absorber where the oxygen absorber kind of craps out after it interacts with oxygen. It's the same thing as the chemical hand warmers if you ice fish or use them for hunting. that's the same compound that is used for oxygen absorbers. It's the same activator as oxygen. So these are going to, this is still a little bit wet, but these are going to last indefinitely. And until that steel is gone, there's going to be steel to interact with to rust. So I think you actually have something that's far superior to a purchased oxygen absorber. When I saw it, I was like, whoa, that makes so much sense. And yeah, I definitely overdid the salt here. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I don't know, but for sure, there's salt on that. No one's going to mistake that there's, for what this is. And I believe this is going to be your best bet. And I put these out in the sun to dry out, and they got nice and hard, and they do have specks of rust on them. So if I want to use them now, I can, or if I want to vacuum pack them just like they do with regular oxygen absorbers, I can do that as well. But as I said, it will take a long time before that steel is rusted so that there is no more activity in there. And these are a great resource that's really next to free. We'll see you next time.